The news this week is brought to you by an exuberant pirate and a dapper man in riding breeches, both offering their sticky beverages for a very reasonable price at your local Speerkauf. On this week's Megan's Megacan, teachers are not happy with Berlin's education minister, the states are not happy with Horst Seehofer, how the Nazis fucked up a whole generation of post-war children, but at least the laptop-pilfering wild boar is still alive. Time for a cola hit.
Good evening, everybody. It's another episode of Megan's Megacan. I'm Megan, and I'm here, as always, with Konrad Werner.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Good, yeah. A little bit cooler now. Like it's not as close as your father would say.
It's not as close as my dad would say, exactly. It's got a little bit of a breeze.
Yeah.
Which is just as well.
I've been worried about, the birds and the trees.
The birds and the trees.
Drying out. Have you heard about this? You can go out and water the trees as an initiative.
I have heard about that, actually. It can be like a tree pattern. Is that what it's called?
Something like that. You find the nearest pump. There are public pumps.
Yeah.
You can go and find, and then you get.
I don't think we have those in Neukölln. They'd be too kind of whimsical and picturesque.
They're likely to be abused. And also,
if last week was anything to go by, I'm very worried about what you're going to talk to me about.
Okay.
So shall we have some booze?
Yeah.
And we best get the bad news. Well, not quite bad news yet, but bad rumours or potential bad news.
Okay.
You best enjoy this Megacan while you can, because it was bought for out-of-house consumption. And that is something that the Berlin Senate are debating banning.
Really?
Yes. It's terrifying. My radio alarm clock woke me up to this news, and I can only half understand German when I'm half awake. So I was like, what? They were like, no more Wegbiers, no more Feierabendbiers. I was like, whoa, no.
So your alarm clock was doubly alarming.
Yes, the health minister of Berlin, whose name escapes me. Her name does escape me. The one I was thinking of is the education minister, who we're going to talk about in a second. But luckily I'd already bought these, and I've had them in my fridge for a while, and I assume I bought them on some sort of theme, but because that's what I usually do, but it escapes me. So you can have a Johnny Walker and cola. I think maybe they just had fancy ones wherever I was.
Okay.
Or Captain Morgan and cola.
Well, the theme is cola.
Yes, I think that was it.
Yeah.
That must have been the theme, yes.
Yeah.
Going to cola drinks, but different to like the JD and Coke.
Okay.
You want the Johnny Walker, don't you?
Yeah, you can always see me looking at it.
I think sometimes the theme is Megan wants to like secretly end up drinking rum, even though she feels weird about it and it makes her feel odd. But sometimes implicitly she knows that's what's going to happen. All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, that's a rum and Coke, all right.
That didn't look like you enjoying that first sip.
I think I'll probably get into it. I just don't. The Diet Coke, it tastes a little bit like Captain Morgan Spiced Original Gold, Premium Caribbean Rum, Spirit Drink, and Spices Blend and Cola. Tastes a bit like Dr. Pepper, I think. Slightly synthetic taste.
Yeah, some people love that taste, though, of Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Americans.
How's your Johnny Walker and Cola? And it's very understatedly fancy can with dark colours.
Yeah,
it's very classy.
It is classy, isn't it? It's not trying to grab your attention. It just knows that you want it.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Right.
Let's get on to all the depressing news.
Yay! Enjoy maybe your final Megacan that we don't buy in an establishment.
Well, first of all, how was your first week in school with the school children?
Yeah, we've had our first full week back of school in Regelbetrieb, business as usual, since the 16th of March.
Any suspicious coughs?
Yes, a few. One poor child today had a cough, and I was like, "What? What is that?" He's like, "I just swallowed my water wrong." I was like, "Okay."
Any prank coughing by the unruly children?
No. The thing is, you do kind of have to send them home, and they're supposed to have a test, and I defy any child to want to go and have continual tests because they're really unpleasant.
Right.
So they might try that once as a skiving school thing, and then I think they'll be like, we'll just take the thing. And I think this is something that's shared with a lot of my colleagues. I've absolutely had an amazing week. I'm so tired, but I'm like so happy to have all the kids back and have like the energy of the school. And I've had a great week. And I have the luxury of working in a very, very small school and I'm not kind of risk group, and I don't have anyone risk group at my home or anything like that. A lot of people are very unhappy. Berlin's education system is already under a lot of strain. There's a lot of school places and kindergarten places that, like, there's more kids than places. I think this is always been a problem, and there's just more and more. Berlin is getting bigger and bigger. I was reading today that 38,000 kids have their Einschulung this week, which is that thing where they join first grade and it's a big deal, and they get the big cardboard tube of
like a cone,
goodies. Yes, a big cardboard cone of goodies at 38,000, and that's the most since the fall of the wall, apparently. Or the building of the wall.
one of the things associated with the wall.
Oh, Lord.
Well, that's interesting.
This is what happens when I try and do content.
And why did you want to bring up the education minister?
Yeah, people are really pissed off with her. So basically, there's loads of kids. We've got so many kids we don't have place for. And this is before Corona. Yeah, since the fall of the wall. And it's not 38, it's 36,800 Erstklässler got their Einschulung, had their Einschulung this week. So, Sandra Scheeres, the education minister for Berlin, and people are very cross with her. The union in particular, the GEW, are having to take matters in their own hands because they feel that she will not speak to them. I think a lot of the feeling is kind of that this back to school has been quite rushed, and in addition to all of these kids and places not filled, Berlin already was working at a deficit of teacher. There's a serious teacher deficit, and then of course now with Corona, with some people not being able to come to work, this is a problem. There are 8 schools already in Berlin that have confirmed Corona cases this week.
Really?
Yeah.
8? So they closed their schools down again straight away?
Well, it depends on the hygiene concept of the school. Some schools close the whole thing depending on, you know, what's happened. Some schools are able to say, right, well, they've just had contact with year 9, so that group and their teachers are out into quarantine until everyone gets tested. But yeah, so basically the GEW, the union, have formed Protest Bündnis, a protest group of alliance, yes, for einen Corona-Bildungspakt. Students and teachers and educators and the school leadership.
Right.
And parents and everything, and they would like €1 million of Soforthilfe, of immediate help.
To do what with?
For proper hygiene at schools.
But didn't the education minister have not much say about this, because all the other schools in Germany are also doing it? So she just had to come up with a plan to get it done like everyone else has. Yeah,
but I guess their argument is she's the Berlin one. They've said that she's not really been meeting with the unions and stuff.
Right. She's like, no, yeah, she's not talking to them.
Yeah, you kind of have to talk to your unions if you're going to go and make teachers work in a pandemic-riddled, overheated, badly ventilated classrooms.
What party is she?
SPD, I think.
Yeah, typical.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll see what happens there. It's a mix. It's, as my students always say when they don't want to think about vocabulary, I have mixed feelings. I had mixed emotions.
Okay. Well, can I say something good about the Berlin government?
Yes, please do.
Well,
because at the moment they're just banning booze and killing teachers.
Well, also, Berlin is the one of 2 states in Germany that wants to unilaterally bring in refugees from the Moria camp on Lesbos.
Yes.
Which is chronically overcrowded. There are about 17,000 refugees there now, and it's built for about 3,000 there and around the outside as well.
What were those numbers again? Sorry?
There are about 15 to 17,000.
Jesus.
Refugees.
In something that's built for 3,000?
Well, they're not all inside. A lot of them are like in the unofficial camps. They're just camped outside it.
Oh, they sound like great crack. I'm sure it's lovely.
It's like a humanitarian catastrophe unfolding on Lesbos, and a lot of people saying that Germany should just let a few in, and Berlin and Thuringia are the 2 states that have voluntarily threatened to just unilaterally bring them in.
Thüringen? Was it not going very Nazi last time we checked?
No, yes, but
yes, it was, and then
they reinstated the old one because the other one, the one that was backed by the AfD, resigned. So they reinstated Bodo Ramelow, who's from.
Oh, I love Bodo Ramelow, particularly even more now. Well done. All right, sweet, that's nice.
But they have been blocked by guess who? Who might block this kind of effort by the states?
Horst, rising from the sea on his. Hofer. I don't know.
Interior Minister Horst Seehofer of the federal government.
Of the Christian something. What is he? He's CSU, but
social
Christian.
union, yeah.
I just want to drop the word Christian in there.
Yeah. And
this is...
Yeah, do you want to say it again? Christian?
I just feel like this is baseline Christianity. It's not like when you're tested, like, oh, when does life begin and a woman's right to choose? It's like, people are dying. You can probably help.
Yeah. Well, Horst Seehofer's answer to that would be Jesus never had to coordinate with the EU. And he's got to, and he says, I have to coordinate with the EU on a common refugee policy. And obviously, Jesus had his own concerns, but they weren't political concerns in that same way. And Horst says there is no way that, he says, if I just let individual states willy-nilly start bringing in refugees, then the other states in Europe will stop taking me seriously, because this was the whole point of this is why the refugee crisis became the refugee crisis in 2015. It's because a lot of the other countries in the EU said, well, who is Angela Merkel to just open the borders? Because, you know, there are borders too, because we're also in the EU, you know, and so this is like this is like Horst Seehofer's excuse for this.
Heaven forfend people should die because Europe doesn't take Seehofer seriously.
The problem with that is, of course, that there will never be a common EU refugee policy, because about 7 of states have already said we don't want any refugees. Those states being like Hungary, Poland.
Yeah,
the ones that are like run by more right-wing and governments, and then obviously other states such as the ones on the Mediterranean, like Greece, Italy, Malta, they say, well, we really do need a common refugees policy because they want to have all the refugees distributed fairly across the whole of the EU. So they'll never, those two sides, that's been like an argument for years and years and years now, and those two sides are never going to like come together. So it's really up to, like, in the meantime, Berlin and Thuringia is joining an alliance of other state governments in Germany to try and they want to basically sue the federal government and say, actually, this can be our decision. We can make this decision on our own because and there's nothing you can do about it. So there's like a legal battle going on now. But in the meantime, the Andreas Geisel, who is the Interior Minister
for Berlin,
he says there should be a conference, like an Interior Ministers' conference, which will decide some kind of deal with
the Interior Ministers of the Bundesländer.
Plus Seehofer, plus the federal Interior Minister.
The top Innen Minister. Just all the Innens getting...
Yeah, they said they really should have like a... So that's like that's kind of the political machinations.
Well, I wish
now.
Berlin and Thuringia well.
Yeah, because everyone has agreed that there's something has got to be done. Like even the federal government, even the CDU says that something has to be done. It's like it's an unsustainable situation.
Awful. Like and I think it is. Yeah, and it's. You were just reminding me that it's coming up to the 5th anniversary of the refugee crisis, or that time we pretended to be humans for like. The
time that Angela Merkel came out of her shell for a moment.
Came out of her shell from being super pragmatic, and I was actually like, I might actually still believe in some kind of God or values or something. Maybe we'll let some people in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, that would be good, because I think you're right. Like the EU, and this is where I get really pissed off about the EU. Or maybe it's just, there's just so much money for like bailing out airlines the whole time, and you've got 17,000 people living in horrible conditions.
Yeah.
And they're all like, I don't want to take any refugees because I'm right wing. And the EU's like,
that voice.
Oh,
that's a very right wing
voice.
Well,
we can't really do anything because, you know, we might have to work together to maintain the airlines. I don't know. Do we have it for any other? I'm.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Sort of annoying, isn't it?
One of those lovely people that came on to, like, one of our lovely guests that were talking whenever we were talking about Brexit, who were so passionate about the EU, they need to come back. persuade me that
Restore your faith.
Restore my faith. I don't know. I just like when you've got like human rights abuses happening in Poland, which is like a fairly major member state, and you're just like,
Yeah.
what are we doing about this?
I know.
Are there structures within the EU that allows us to?
I don't.
What have we been set up to do? I thought we were supposed to be set up to be good and like not Nazis. But now I just think it was the economic thing that came first, wasn't it? It's always
that's
capitalism,
what I would say,
isn't it?
but you know.
But it literally was like the European Economic Area. So I guess so it was just about the money, not about the not being horrible Nazis and trying to prevent wars. Great. What else?
I'm trying to think of a good link, but I can't think of a link. The other thing that happened this week is that it emerged. We've done refugees, and then so now we can do Nazis. Obviously, those are only the two things that I ever really write about in Germany. This week's Nazis.
It's almost like there's connections with everything, and it's all.
This week in Nazi news from Germany. This week's it emerged that former concentration camp guards used to work and even run children's Kurheime in the 50s to 80s, like spa homes. This was a documentary that came out earlier this week on the TV show Report Mainz, which is kind of an investigative show on the ARD. And they traced a lot of the biographies of the directors of these spa homes that were there to kind of look after children. So you could send your kid off to a summer holiday type home for the summer if they were feeling a bit ill or if they were a little bit undisciplined. And they realized that some people who were like actually really high-ranking Nazis were running these homes in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and the children were often subject to horrible abuse. They were called Verschickungskinder, like sent away children. They were there. This was like a practice, especially it was mainly in West Germany. It also happened in East Germany too, but there's not as much evidence that people don't know exactly what happened there. This is all mostly about West Germany, but they say that 8 to 12 million children were sent to such homes in that period after the war. And what was weird is that it was always done on the recommendation of doctors and schools and Jugendämter, youth welfare authorities, and it was all paid for by the Krankenkasse, by the public health insurers. And you could send like kids from as young as 3 up to about 12. Like most of the kids were sort of 6, 7, but yeah, like you could send like.
That's awful.
And then you would
3.
And I was talking to one of the survivors, one of the people who went to one of these homes, and she has started a kind of a new self-help group initiative in the last few years. She's actually a journalist as well, and she collected all these stories. She collected like 250 of these stories about what happened. And she said, like, I arrived at it, and she thought it was like all isolated cases. And the more she's researched, the more she's found out that it was like this endemic system of abuse that was run. And it was stories of like the kids would be tied to their beds when they got there. They would be like forced to eat all their food, and if they puked any of it up, they'd have to eat all their own puke. It was just all these horrible stories.
God.
And they were like bullied, like they were put in the rooms with the older kids, and they were bullied, and no one cared about them. And this would go on like for weeks and weeks, and they were sent home. And then the kids were obviously too ashamed and to talk to their parents about it.
And God knows why they'd been sent off in the first place. Whoa.
So it was like this sort of horrible system that just kind of that was in place for years and years and years. And yeah,
do you think? I mean, I'm sure a lot of it was, I don't know, and this is something that I simultaneously would actually really like to find out a lot more about and also pretend I've never heard of because it's really upsetting. Yeah, like you can imagine maybe these things being marketed in a certain, not marketed, but like maybe families sending them off in good faith, but also maybe just I don't know. I'd like to see the reasons kind of how these kids ended up there, whether it was kind of like because they were problematic and then they got this chance to go and learn some discipline during the holidays, whether it was parents who were struggling or single parents that needed a break. I don't know.
Well, from what I understand, the parents sent them off in good faith. They really thought this would be good for our kids. And they didn't know. They didn't necessarily know what had happened when the kids got back. Although there were a lot of stories about parents complaining because their kids were malnourished when they got home, and they had to be taken to hospital. And they collected all these letters, and even the Jugendämter, the youth welfare authorities, complained. And this woman, she's called Anja Röhl, she collected all these letters saying that the welfare authorities did complain, but they were kind of protected. The directors of the schools simply ignored all the complaints, and they seem to be politically
it's just basically, a story there with absolutely no parallels to any other kind of institutional abuse of children anywhere in the world. I've literally never come across these kinds of things with government-funded educational programs that end up facilitating and allowing the abuse to happen in the first place and then covering it up. There's just it's literally in every, you have in Ireland, obviously. You have residential schools in Canada. You've got it's similar in Australia with the Aboriginal children.
Yeah. And this has all just really come out in the last few years because certain people have been collecting a few stories, and it's only just...
Yeah, I'd never heard of that's no real indication of whether it's been prevalent in public discourse in Germany or not. But
and the woman said that there was a connection to the Nazi time because she thinks that because so many of the people who are running these camps and who are working in these camps were themselves educated in the 1930s in the Nazi era, she thinks that the kind of Nazi worldview was kind of kept going in these sort of schools for quite a long time. And she also suspects, she's not sure about this, but she suspects that the homes were used to kind of hide people who had been working in concentration camps and find them work because they couldn't find work anywhere else because they were worried about being prosecuted. So they often kind of kept to themselves these homes.
So they set them up another little mini camp.
They set them up a little mini camp
they could do with children.
And teach them proper discipline.
Anyone who talks to you about teaching discipline as a primary kind of pedagogical approach and not as a means, you have to have a certain, and I don't like the word discipline, but kids have to kind of listen to you in class. It does work more than if they're bashing each other over the head with chairs. But yeah, I'm wary of anywhere or anything that talks about discipline as a pedagogical goal or even uses the word no.
Yeah, they were made to, if they weed their bed, they'd have to stand up all night and stuff like that. They'd have to stand on the cold floor, or they'd be locked into the freezer or something. It would be horrible corporal punishments.
But then I was about to be I don't understand how anyone could do that to a child. How anyone... And then I'm obviously it's former concentration camp. People, so obviously they have no problem with human suffering. But when do you get to the point? And then I start questioning myself as a teacher. I was well, you've definitely upset kids, and it's not wounded you in your soul.
Well, I guess I don't know, but I guess you have to. The only way you can do it is if you really think you're doing the kids good. I imagine that you think that this is necessary.
I think after a while that excuse runs out, and particularly if we're talking about former concentration camp. There's no way you can convince yourself that that's doing anybody any good.
Well, no.
But maybe that's then, I don't know. Oh God, that's dark.
So we've done refugees, we've done Nazis.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that's left is animals.
Is this going to be a good story?
I think so far it's good. I might come back next week and it might not be so good. But
oh God.
Last week, you might remember, there were funny pictures all over the internet of a man being chased around the Teufelsee, a naked man. I've got a picture here. Would you like to see?
I loved it. I loved this story so much. I loved everything about it. I loved that he was...
So he put his laptop in a carrier bag, a plastic carrier bag, and as you do, and a mother boar grabbed the carrier bag and made off with it.
Yes,
ran around and escaped into a forest. I think he did retrieve his laptop eventually.
He did, yes, because there was some form of cardboard box obstacle in the way. Apparently, I did read quite a detailed breakdown of this. And obviously, what amused people all around the world, but was completely unsurprising to people, I think, in Germany, particularly the east of Germany, was this man was in hot pursuit of a boar, absolutely stark bollock naked.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think like the UK press and the American one were just like, he's naked. And I was like, I had not even, that was a secondary thing that I'd noticed on the thing, because I'm so used to seeing like middle-aged naked German men at the sea.
Yeah. That's where you go. I think that's the nice thing about FKK experience, is that you experience, you see what everyone's body looks like.
Yes, and it's very comforting. It's also like the least sort of sexy thing that you can ever imagine. Like, you're always like, oh, Germans all naked at the beach. I'm like, no, because it's like a dude chasing a boar for his laptop that's kind of like not very sexy.
Yeah.
So is a man like putting up a hammock and doing things that are just really, I don't know. That's
not a sexy...
Watching a naked man, like an oddly attractive naked man once, a while ago, I think it was at a festival, put up a hammock. And I was like, this is not a good naked activity. There's a lot of reaching and sort of bracing yourself to kind of hold a rope. It was weird.
It ruined the even though he was an attractive man.
I just don't know. I'm not sure.
The sexy vibe of the situation.
Yeah, but this is my point. Like, even attractive people, I don't think, even people I would find attractive, like FKK is, like you say, it's just this kind of like human unifier.
Yeah,
and it's not sexy in that way.
Anyway. Yeah. So, but I'm happy to report that wild boar is still alive.
Yeah, I'm a bit concerned that when I arrived here, you were saying, I'm just checking on the fate of that boar. I was like, if you take what has been the one fucking good news story that I've had in 2 fucking weeks and tell me that boar is dead, I'll be livid.
Because it was touch and go for a week, because the Förster, the forest gamekeepers, whatever they are, they have had their eye on this boar now, because they are worried that they might have to kill it, because if it gets too close to the humans and gets a bit too feisty. But as far as I know, at the moment they're just keeping it under observation and have decided not to actually just blow it away yet.
Wow.
So
I'm so glad that you've done this, because
news.
After last week's like absolute awful, depressing thing when I was so hungover, and also I did actually listen back, and I apologise to everyone, because I, in the second half, failed to finish coherently any point that I was trying to make. I was like, you finished that in your head. But then I was like, surely we could have had a good news story. And you were like, oh, I was going to talk about that boar.
Well, I thought it was going to be a bad news story, but apparently it still is still alive, so it's still so good news.
Keep going on the boar.
Yeah.
Go on, the lads, the boar lads.
Yeah. And there's
I think it'd be good as humans, maybe we start scaring them a little bit more. Like, if you see a wild boar, don't just like take its picture or something, like scare it so it gets not used to humans anymore.
Yeah. You could get, like, maybe there's some kind of boar whistle. Like, like there's some, in America, people mount like whistles on the front of their cars to scare away deer that only deer can hear.
Oh, the air going through?
The air goes through this whistle that's on the front of the car, and it's supposed to stop the...
You have to get to the front of your car, kneel down, blow in a whistle. No. I was like, this doesn't seem effective. Keeping deers away.
And it's supposed to, so that the deer doesn't get in front of your car.
Yeah,
so
do we have boar whistles? Is that a thing?
Well, I just wondered if someone would like to look into it. If there were any entrepreneurs listening here, you could develop a A boar whistle.
A boar whistle.
For when you go to the FKK beach,
Yeah.
and then keep them away, and they know their boundaries, you know your boundaries, and everyone's happy.
Yeah.
No one has to get shot.
Yes.
That's just a thought.
Oh, I really enjoyed that thought.
Yeah.
How's your mega?
Good, yeah, good. You ever seen a wild boar?
Yeah, I saw my first one a few weeks ago. It was magical. So I was going out to my little like summer cabiny thing.
Okay.
Which makes me sound fancier than I am. But I was on the tiny little bus.
Your holiday home.
My holiday home. In southeast Berlin. I was in a little bus on the last stage of the journey. You get in a bus that's literally like a slightly bigger Ford Transit van where they've put some seats in that BVG print. You get in there and I was like driving through the woods. Not me. The bus was driving through the woods. And I looked out and there was a wild boar and I'd never seen one before. I was so excited.
Cool.
Have you? You've probably seen loads because you're half German.
I can't avoid them.
They're everywhere. There's one under your sofa.
No, I have, but I've not seen loads. I mean, like, every now and then. I never go to the lake anyway. I saw one once near that island. What's it, that island called? The Peacock Island.
You know, I've never been to Peacock Island.
It's lovely. You should go. But on the way back from there, I saw one.
Wow.
In the forest.
If you do see them, it would be good if we had a whistle or something to scare them because they are getting too used to humans and then the Forster's going to have to come and shoot them all, which is probably going to break the Forster's heart as well as ours.
Yeah, he probably doesn't enjoy that job. Might do. I don't know.
Oh, God, I hope he's not like one of those guards. Oh, anyway. Let's hope the Forster's not a Nazi.
Yeah.
That's all we can hope
With
for.
that thought, let's wrap up today's lovely podcast.
Lovely podcast. I'm quite drunk now because I've drunk rum at 6:30 or whatever time we started. Take care, everybody, this week. Wear your masks. Keep Abstand. Drink your water.
Yeah, and drink beer at home.
Drink beer at home. I didn't really make the point that I wanted to make about the alcohol thing.
Well, make it now. We can use it.
I just think it's unfair because if you penalise mainly people who are going to maybe buy alcohol at Spätis or supermarkets and then drink it outside those premises, you might be penalising people who don't have the option of buying expensive drinks in bars and stuff like that. And I don't think that's particularly fair. So let's all just keep all of the other rules so they don't take our fucking booze away. Dear God.
Yes.
On that note. Stay safe and healthy, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.